In this short video, I'm going to give you an example of how Google basically tries to help themselves to more of your money and guides you down a path of potentially paying for less than relevant advertising with Google Ads and why you need to be wary of this. So what I've done is I've just gone through the very basic steps of setting up a sort of draft search ad campaign in Google. I was promoting samfrost.co.nz, which is my sort of NZ-based digital marketing consulting business, from which this channel's spun off, basically. And what I've done is I've plugged in my URL or my website domain. Now, I actually plugged this on earlier in the campaign setup process when it first asks whether you want website visits or phone calls and so on. But you can actually put in a different URL here if you want, like if you had a special landing page. And it's given me these keyword suggestions. And what Google's banking on, and what a lot of people do, at least based off some of the account audits I do, and talking to business owners who've set up their own Google Ads and people new to the platform, is they'll plug in their landing page or their domain in here when they're setting up an ad group or setting up the campaign, if it's just a single ad group campaign. And Google suggests these keywords, and people kind of eyeball it and go, "Oh yeah, that looks pretty right. It looks roughly okay. I'm in the digital marketing business, so it's pretty good. Why not? Digital marketing strategy. Yeah, sure, I sell that." And people kind of run through the process pretty quickly because they don't. For two reasons, really. One is they don't understand that going too broad in terms of reaching less relevant, less interested parties and then paying per click to advertise them is not the most efficient way of doing things. And secondly, they kind of assume that Google's got their best interests at heart, especially if they're new to Google Ads and haven't learned the hard way yet and been burned. And so it's pretty common that I'll find that someone just said, "Oh, yeah, Google told me to give them the landing page or the URL. I plugged it in, they gave me a bunch of keywords, and I hit, accept and basically moved through the process and went next." But these keywords, if I look at my own business, for example, are just too broad. Some of them, things like online marketing courses, digital marketing course, too broad. I'm not selling any courses. I don't really have any plans to. I feel like the course selling business is a bit saturated. I don't want people who are basically going to be searching for that. I don't want to be paying for those kind of people to click on my ads. Even things like digital marketing. It's just so broad. I mean, I might get some clicks and some impressions off it, but is someone looking for a job? Are they looking to hire a digital marketing agency? Well, I don't run an agency. I do more independent consulting. Are they looking for advice on how to do digital marketing? It's too broad. And oftentimes these keywords range from just being too broad, and I don't mean broad as in the match type, although if you can see here, Google always puts the keywords in broad match type. They don't do what they should do if they're trying to help you out and put them all in as phrase matches at the starting point at least, just to try and improve the relevancy. They'll give you these broad keywords that are also broad match to give Google tons of ability to show your ads quite widely, knowing that the average person, the average punter who's setting up ads isn't really going to know what to check. So my recommendation is to be wary of this. You can plug your domain name or URL in to get suggestions, but I would always enter keywords that you actually wanted to target specifically rather than relying on Google suggestions. So, for example, let's say that I was actually trying to advertise say PPC management or Google Ads management service, and that was my ad group here. I can put that in, and then I might do things like PPC ad setup as broad match. Now, sorry, phrase match. That's not the best example, but I'm just putting it in there rather than relying on Google's suggestions. If you rely on Google's suggestions, they're going to push you after potentially irrelevant, lower interest or less qualified traffic and less qualified audience. And also, they're not going to suggest using things like phrase or exact match keywords because that means fewer ad impressions, fewer click opportunities, lower revenue for Google. So just be wary of this. I would always suggest you do your own independent keyword research. Plug the keywords into here yourself when you're setting up ad groups. You might want to check what Google recommends, but equally, you are probably fine just to ignore it. And if you do check what they recommend, then you actually want to be a little bit wary of how they're doing it. Same if you use this system here as well. If we were advertising something else and getting keyword suggestions, see what Google comes up with. And you want to be a little bit wary of the kind of options they provide. So this is a good example, actually. Ignore the fact that this ad group is called PPC Management. Imagine you're advertising a hotel and a luxury or higher end hotel. Google's suggesting cheap hotels, cheap motels. That might be totally sort of misaligned with your potential customer. If you're offering a luxury experience at a higher price point, you don't want people looking for a cheap hotel or a cheap motel because they're probably not going to be happy when they click through to your site and see the pricing. You've paid for that click that's wasted. And also, you don't necessarily want inquiries from people who want to spend $50 a night on a hotel and you're charging $500 a night or whatever the case may be. So be very wary of these suggestions. Just another example of where Google is trying to help you out in some respects, but they're trying to help you out through a lens of whatever's going to benefit them the most, knowing that most people just jump through this process without paying too much attention. If you've got any questions here, please let me know. Like this video if it's helpful, and I'll see you next time.